Hi beautiful people, welcome to my channel. My name is Dominique and today we're going to be reading another anonymous story time. While we do this, I'm going to be putting some makeup on my face. I suck at doing makeup. I am quite a tomboy, I always have been, but as I've gotten older I quite enjoy putting makeup on and looking pretty, So don't judge me. I'm watching you, don't come for me at how I apply my makeup because I actually have no clue what I'm doing. Okay, disclaimer, I have no clue what I'm doing. Let's get into the story. This is a really strange story that I haven't really been able to tell because it's just so weird, and I thought that people would honestly think that I was a little crazy if I tried to tell this story. So I've kept it in for a while, but I think it's finally time for me to share it. So I was working as a nurse at an assisted living facility, and I'd been put on night shift, and there was this one resident who was having this really crazy week. She was just having the wildest week. It was out of control. It was absolutely insane. So I was doing my rounds and it was about midnight, I'd say, and I'm just out there making sure that all the residents are okay, that everyone's in their rooms, kind of that they have everything they need. And this lady comes running out of her room, like absolutely barreling towards me, and she looks petrified. And so I'm like, okay, what is happening here? She is holding a cross in her hands as she's running towards me. So it's kind of something like out of a horror movie. It's really creepy. I'm a little bit disturbed by the sight. I'm like, okay, what is happening? Are you okay? What is going on? And she's as white as a ghost at this point. And she said to me, no, there's something in her room. So I'm like, were you having a nightmare? And she says, no, there is a man standing in my room and he is telling me to get out of his room. So now at this point I'm like, no, she must have been having this dream because, we've checked the rooms and there's no one in there. Like, she's the only one that lives in this room. She lives alone. So it's a very strange thing that's happening to her. I go and I peek into her room, and it's empty. There is no one in there. So I'm like, okay, this definitely must have been a dream. It has to have been a dream. There's no one in her room. I can't see anything. I've checked the whole area and she was completely alone in there. But for the rest of the night, she was like, no, she is not going back into that room. And she walked around with me for my shift. She was not going in there. She refused. Eventually I end my shift and she goes back into her room and gets some sleep, and there's nothing else that really happened that night with her. So I'm like, okay, everything's fine. Obviously it was a nightmare and it's chilled. So I come back for my shift the next night and it was even crazier. Like, this was absolutely bizarre. I had no clue what was going on. I have this pager that lets me know if any of the residents need help or if any of the doors are open. Obviously it makes the rounds a lot easier knowing what's happening, and I get a page if something's going on during the night so that I know which room to go to and where to look, that kind of thing, and who to assist. So it's 2 a.m. and the front door alarm goes off, which is really creepy because I had made sure that all those doors were locked, and they were locked. So what was going on? What is happening that my pager is going off saying that the door's open? Completely creepy. I'm freaked out at this moment. So I decide now I've got to go and have a look what's going on. I've got to go check this front door. So I head down there to see what is going on, and surprise, the front door is wide open. And I know that I locked it. So this is very strange. I go outside to find the patient from the night before staring up at the sky. Right, so now it's 2 a.m. It's pitch black outside. No one should really be out here, and she's fixated on the sky. So I try to ask her, are you okay? What's happening? Do you need help? That kind of thing, and she doesn't reply. She just continues staring into the sky. So I'm like, okay, this is very strange. What is going on? So after multiple attempts of asking her, like, what is happening? Are you okay? What is going on? She doesn't look at me. She continues to look at the sky and says one thing to me. This is all she says to me is, death is coming for me and I have let him in. So now I'm freaked out. This is absolutely creepy. The night before she saw a man in her room, and tonight she is fixated on this guy telling me that death is coming for her and that she's let him in. Bizarre, right? Absolutely crazy. So I get her back into her room and everything's okay, and of course I'm a little freaked out about what has just happened and what she's just told me. A little bit bizarre, but you know, she seems okay. So I was working the night shift for that whole week, and for the next couple of days she kept telling me about the angry man in her room. And I was like, I know there's no angry man in your room. I have checked myself. Like, there is no angry man in her room. She kept telling me how he would keep her up at night by yelling at her. He was always yelling at her, and he was throwing her things on the floor, and he kept telling her, get out of my house, get out of my space. And she was really disturbed by this, rightfully so, you know. At this point, I'm now really curious about this man in her room, because like I say, I have gone in there and I haven't seen him, and nobody else has seen this man. None of the other nurses have seen this man, so nobody knows what's really happening. I said to her, what does this man look like? Like, can you describe him to me? Tell me a little bit more about this man, you know, like maybe I can help her out, kind of thing. So she starts to describe this man to me, and she tells me how he looks, and you know, what his hair color is, and how tall he is, and everything about this man. And as she's describing him, my heart literally sinks. And now I'm all freaked out. I'm like, okay, this is really, really creepy, because the man that she was describing was the previous resident who had lived in the room prior to her, and he had passed away in that room. And this man really didn't like anyone being in his space. He hated it when people were in his room. He was quite a grumpy old man, and he just wanted his own space. So it was really creepy that she had actually described the man who had just passed away in there. So at this point I'm really freaked out. I'm like, okay, this is really strange. Like, maybe it's a coincidence, you know, maybe it's just coincidence, I don't know. I ask her, like, has he by any chance told you his name, or like who he is, or anything else about him, you know, because I'm like, maybe this is just a huge coincidence, and you know, so let me find out. And she says to me, yes, his name is, for this story, John. And now my heart really sinks, because that is the exact name of the man who lived in the room prior to her that had passed away in there. His name was John, and he was really angry and grumpy, and he hated it when people were in his room. So really freaky. After finding out all this information, I'm like, you know what, that is actually pretty disturbing, that she knows what he looks like and she knows his name. I'm like, someone must have told her something about this John character before she moved in. Like, there is no way that she knows who he is, what he looks like, all this information about the man, without someone having said something to her. So I went to all the other nurses on shift, and I spoke to them, and I was like, listen guys, has anyone mentioned to her the guy that used to live in the room, you know, the man who passed away in here? Like, has anyone said anything to her, told her any information, explained what he looks like? And everyone is like, nope, no one has told her anything. So no one told her any information about this man, yet she knows exactly who he is, what he looks like. Freaky. So after a week or so of this poor lady being tortured by the man in her room, she decided that she was going to move rooms, because she couldn't sleep at night, and she was tired of being shouted at and being told to get out and being bullied and her stuff being thrown around, you know. She was just done with all of that. She was so over it. And she moved rooms the next 2 days, and everything stopped. She had no concerns. Her family was really worried about her well-being when they heard about this man in her room. So they moved her, and since then nothing has happened to her. Like, another resident has moved into that room where John used to stay, and nothing bizarre has happened to him yet. yet. So I'm not too sure if it was a nightmare or if Pujon is actually haunting that room and he just didn't like this lady. But none of the other residents have had a problem since then, which is really, really bizarre. So I've had many strange, bizarre things happen to me during shifts while I was working at this facility. But that was definitely one of the top craziest stories that I have had at this facility so far. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to push that subscribe button, leave a like down below and comment. It really helps other people find my channel. As always, I look forward to seeing you in the future. You are loved, you are special, and you are needed. Bye!